Yeah, joining us now is Michael Bitzer, professor of politics and history at Catawba College. And Professor One, thank you for joining us this morning. What immediately comes next for Kamala Harris? Of course, we know that she'll have to get those delegates there. What does the path forward look like?
So right now, she is probably well in the midst of trying to organize the campaign, the structure, the infrastructure, getting everything that she needs from the Biden campaign transferred over to her campaign. It sounds like the leadership is going to stay the same, at least for now, but all of that infrastructure is critical to getting up to speed. She's got the transfer of the fundraising capabilities and the war chest that the Biden-Harris campaign took together. And right now, it is about the delegates, getting to that 1,900 delegates that is needed to secure the nomination, as well as vetting her vice presidential candidate. So there are numerous things going on, basically going from 0 to 120 miles an hour in zero point 0.0 seconds.
All right, well, let's talk about you brought up the vice president, trying to vet who that person's going to be. We've got a graphic that shows about 8 of the possible names that could be her running mate. When we look at some of these names here, you've got Governor Gavin Newsom and Governor Gretchen Whitmer, two people that are strong in the Democratic community, Dr. Bitzer, but both have said we don't want to be second in command, right? And so if we take those out of the list, of course, you got North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. Who stands out as the potential top VP pick?
I think certainly you have to consider Roy Cooper, who would play well in the South. You have to consider Josh Shapiro, the Pennsylvania governor, who could potentially solidify that Midwest blue wall that they want to hold Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. You also have to consider U.S. Senator Mark Kelly out of Arizona, who could be kind of the branch into the desert Southwest. So I think that there are viable candidates. It will just basically be, what strategy does Harris want? What does she want to see in her potential VP? And how does that play out over the next 3 weeks?
Professor, the outside chance obviously would be very difficult for somebody to become and kind of jump Vice President Harris in this race for a nominee. But what would that look like there? Jason, you mentioned Newsom. If somebody wanted the top spot, how would they be able to scramble in time to get to the convention to do that?
It is going to be a monumental undertaking. I mean, there's word about potentially Joe Manchin, the independent West Virginia U.S. Senator, now re-registering as a Democrat and throwing his hat into the ring. It really is going to be an uphill battle. I'm not saying that competition isn't good for the potential nominee, but this is a monumental Herculean effort to try and get into this race and to overcome what Harris has already built up. You know, the party has decided for the most part that she is going to be the nominee. Delegates are already being pledged to her and throwing their support behind her. So it really is going to take a Herculean effort to try and stop what I think is an inevitable Harris nomination.
With President Biden backing out of the spotlight, I should say, he still has 5-6 months. You've got from now until January 20th to run the United States, right? You've got Benjamin Netanyahu who's going to be visiting here. So you're trying to present yourself as the leader of the free world. Yet you've got Republicans saying, hey, if you're not fit to run next year, you're not fit to run the rest of your term. What do you think the president should do? What do you think he might do?
Well, I think he'll probably come out at some point and address the nation to alleviate those concerns. I think certainly campaigning while being president is a double-time job. Just being president is job in and of itself. And so I think the Republicans are trying to make hay out of that. I don't think that that is necessarily going to be an issue because everything now has monumentally shifted in terms of the campaign towards November.
And Professor, real quick for you, I know we're running out of time here, but what do you make of Democratic voters maybe feeling like they didn't get a say in all of this? If this was the case, if they knew that President Biden may not have been fit to run, why didn't they make this an open primary and let the voters decide?
Well, the voters certainly decided to vote for both Joe Biden and for Kamala Harris. That is the fact of the primaries that we've had. Certainly the delegates will be the voices of the voters in this decision.